Oh, good
Oh, good morning, you two.
good morning to the ambassador of Norfolk Island.
Oh, no, I think it's you two with the lovely videos that you both did while you were here.
Oh, that's right. I showed Megan our GoPro.
I know.
Driving around the island.
I was a bit horrified. I think I was a bit sexist, wasn't I? By memory of that, I was a bit naughty, wasn't I, Megan?
Well, does that matter?
Oh, it does really. Oh my goodness. So Megan's in, beautiful Gay's in. We're thrilled to see Gay. Lovely to see you. Queen Mary is in the house. Hello, Mary. And that's looking for Western Australia, that's looking quite cool. Is the weather quite cool, Mary? Or sound, Angel?
Yeah, she just turned it off.
Sound. Oh, darling, speaker. Oh, let's see if we can demute it.
Yeah, no, I've clicked it too many times. Got too excited. Yeah, every time it gets really hot over east, it's been very cool here in WA.
Oh, look, unbelievable. So, yeah, I was just stunned to see you sort of in a bit of jumper work, mate. It's a great jumper, but it's unusual to see our friends from the West in a jumper. Not unusual to see our friends from another bit of the planet in the middle of the night. Good evening, Paul.
Good morning, how are you?
Yeah, good, mate. How's the first couple of weeks of teaching been, Paul?
Like a railroad. Yeah, good. All right, actually. Got through it.
Oh, mate, fantastic. We've been thinking of you. You are legendary, mate. You are legendary. I tell you look tired though, brother. Please look after yourself, all right?
Will do, thank you.
Oh, you superstar. And Adrian, our favourite Adrian, is in looking straight out of a Country Road commercial once more. How's your week been, Adrian?
Yeah, not too bad actually. I think I'm getting into some good writing at the moment, so I'm feeling good.
Oh, you look great, mate. Obviously, you're in our thoughts all the time, and we walk with you, as you know. And speak of someone who we all walk with and want to be. Good morning, good afternoon, Susan. How are you, Queen Susan?
Hi, Tara. I'm fine. I'm a bit tired. It's evening in Jamaica.
I was trying to work out. I was trying to work out in my head, because obviously I'm working through multiple time zones at the moment, New Zealand, Darwin, Sydney. I was going, then Paul in the middle of the night. Now, Jamaica, what time is it in Jamaica? So, Susan, thank you for giving me that information quickly.
It's 30 p.m. on a Thursday evening.
Oh, that is fantastic. We are thrilled to see you. And look, I haven't seen you in a while. Obviously, I keep up with your updates. I keep up with your updates. How are you traveling? You're winning all sorts of awards and fabulous things, obviously, but how's the year been treating you, darling?
The year is fine. I just want to be like you. So I actually realized, I'm being serious. So why are you looking at that? So what time
I'm an idiot, that's why.
No. I just met with I supervise some undergraduate students, and I just met with them today. And I said to them, we do some research at undergrad. And I said to them, guys, it's 2-semester project. And I said, listen, I had already given feedback to 3 groups, and with all 3 groups. And I said, guys, I only work with people who are working for B+ and above, and obviously it's A really. And I said, and I gave them all of my criteria. And I said, any of you who don't like what I'm about, I said, you can all say, nice to meet me, and no problem. So I had listened this morning to your blog, and I just make my expectations. I tell them I'm very serious. But what I need to be more serious about myself is to getting writing output done.
Yes, mate.
So that's where I definitely need to work on that.
Susan, you are so precious to all of us. I mean, I've known you for years and years and years now. You are an amazing human being, and I think you've put everybody else first. You're one of those great humans, and most of those humans are on this call, can I say, who put other people first, second, third, fifth, 10th, 100th, and you put yourself last. And maybe we're reaching the year, Susan, where you start to put yourself first, darling, because bloody hell, you deserve it, mate.
That's probably very good. That's a very good insight.
Well, you're very precious to me. That's why. That's amazing. So Susan's here. We love Susan. And look, my other all my favorite people are here. Lovely Bree's in. Good morning, Queen Bree from Melbourne. Lovely to see
Hello, I'm not on mute. Sorry. Hi.
No, it's lovely to see you. And the light in the darkness is looking very summery. From a summery Sydney. Good morning, Kate. Very summery. How are you? Oh, we just get a wave, do we?
No, I'll say hello. I actually sat here for 10 minutes at 9:30 because I didn't get the message that all our clocks in Australia are at different times, and who the hell knows why that happens.
Yes, well, I know why that happens, Kate. As a Western Australian, let me just speak on behalf of Mary. We don't have daylight saving because the drapes fade, mate, and it freaks out the chickens, right? So I've then moved to the Northern Territory that also understand it fades the curtains and it freaks the chickens out, right? So for colleagues around the world, we are running through, in this small little fabulous continent, about 5 or 6 different time zones. I wish I was joking. So now the Northern Territory and South Australia are on different time zones. So this is, Paul, this is madness. So this is what's called federation in Australia, which is we don't like anybody, and we actually are going to run different clocks. We hate you all so much.
State by state.
State by state, mate by mate, territory by territory. Fantastic. And Norfolk Island, of course, we always forget Norfolk Island, your own time zone. What time is it, Megan? Let's just do the time there, mate.
We're 2.5 hours ahead of Darwin. So an hour ahead of Sydney and Melbourne and Tasmania. Does my head in? Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Megan. I'm coming from Kiribati, so
Yeah.
Oh, you actually, so you're in Kiribati now, Adrian, you're in?
yep, I'm there. I'm here.
You're there, I'm here. So look, we need to go there first. I wondered when you were going, obviously because you've got the very attractive background, I never quite know. So how is it?
Yeah, it's great. It's really good. I need to get rid of the blur because there's some really nice Kiribati artwork up on the wall. So yeah, to show you.
How magnificent are we? So a stack of people, of course, are going to be looking for Kiribati on the map shortly at the conclusion of this gig. So we've got island life with us as well, between Jamaica and Megan and Adrian. This is just tremendous. So colleagues, welcome to Digital Office Hours. We are, as you can see, in the very glamorous CDU Sydney campus. I'm on the 10th floor, deal with that. So it is gorgeous, it's fabulous. As you can see, it's a very attractive human that normally is on a different screen, and strangely we're together. So he's joined us from Aotearoa, New Zealand today, and so it's lovely. We've had this week sort of where we're both working from Sydney, so it's been great. And I need to say hello to Julie as well. Julie's had a big week. I've just got amazing work from Julie. Julie, do you want to tell anybody anything at this point?
Yeah, I'm just thrilled and over the moon and very grateful that both of you have taken me under your wings. And I look forward to great things.
Yes.
Tangoing, yeah.
Oh, it's fantastic. So we're absolutely thrilled to be working with Julie. She is legendary. Love work on women in leadership, just absolutely tremendous, transformative, fantastic. So colleagues, we'll do what we always do. I've got requests from people because, you know, Adrian is becoming seriously famous and people are slightly stalking him, and there are queries for Adrian and people that I've got on this card from our people that watch this asynchronously. But who wants to start with a question? I thought Doug might be straight in. So Doug, I'm thrilled. Go for it, mate. Talk about what you want to talk about.
Actually, it's not about the confirmation of candidature thing from last night. It's more for Lorraine and her motorbike run in October.
Yes.
She should get in touch with the various TV channels who have the news channels, because they will take footage and of various aspects of the run from various locations, and she might be able to access that.
Doug, I think that's brilliant. And just to add to our amazing Lorraine who changes our lives, I would also be contacting those television stations and explaining she's an expert. She's like the international expert of this, and they might like to talk with her.
Yeah, because I was actually going to suggest it last week, but I think we ran out of time. And yeah, so I thought, well, if I remember, I'll do it today. And of course, I was up at waiting for this to happen at 9 a.m. SA time, and it was about half an hour, 20 minutes in when I actually checked your Sydney agenda and realised, well, I've got another half hour, an hour to wait, and
Yeah, I was going to say, Paul, how to upset a group of Australians, right? Have a chat to them in the first week of October, right? We're not good with time anyway, mate. We're living in 1978, right? We're not good with time anyway. Add daylight saving like this little sort of checkerboard, we lose the plot, mate. We lose it. We've gone. We're out. We're out. But Doug, you're legendary. So Lorraine will love that, and I'll talk to Lorraine about that. Now, Doug, did you want to ask your other question? Because it's a great.
Okay. About the confirmation of candidature.
Yeah, mate.
We got that right. What happens if the student has a case of a diagnosis of anxiety or other ailments, which make presentations quite stressful and hard to pull off?
Well said, and this is a great question, Doug. And you're a blessing to the planet for asking that question, because obviously we're just about to introduce milestones at CDU, so it's like, oh my goodness me, and and of course they are stressful events, Doug. So the first thing is we have to look in the mirror and go, these are stressful events. This is a PhD. This is not easy. This is not straightforward. Paul, it's like when we're planning in the UK, the Vivas, right? So we're doing the oral examinations at the end, and a colleague, and I've had to do a lot of these, and a colleague has a matter that makes that event difficult. And I think one of the most amazing examples I ever had of that was a wonderful student that I was on the panel for, had breast cancer and chemo and so forth, and was just recovering, and so was recovered, but was doing an oral exam under those conditions. And of course, the examiners didn't know, but the chair of the panel took the examiners aside just before the oral exam and stated this as a medical fact, just so we would know going into the oral exam. And so what that meant was, we were great, very experienced examiners, and we put in 30-minute breaks. So we said to the lads, well, we'll have a break every 30 minutes for 5 minutes, and we'll get the entire oral exam done in an hour and a half for you. We would have done things differently, but disclosing that medical matter meant that we could put in the breaks, and we as examiners were aware, look, you know, we've got to make sure rigor and so forth and reaching standards, but you know, dragging this out to 2.5 hours from someone that's just got over chemo is not right. So we ask the meaningful questions at the start and diminishing returns. So Paul, I'll just start there and then we'll go back to Doug's question. So Paul, how have you handled those sort of modification matters?
Yeah, kind of rightfully, sensitively and respectfully for the individuals, and it's a conversation two-way. And you know, as you said before, everyone's trying to look for the best outcome for that person. So, of course, you're going to do what you can to make them as comfortable and as relaxed in that process as possible. No one's trying to catch anyone out. It's about a two-way conversation. So, we do quite similar when we do masters vivas, and students really respect that and respond to that, and they understand that we're doing the best for them, and we're not going into the oral examination wanting anyone to fail. It's just about having a conversation about their work.
I think that's tremendous. So but it is also about, Paul and Doug, this is the significant bit, it is about declaring the matter. So if there is an impairment or a disability, or where we were a few weeks ago, neurospasticity, if there is a medical matter, then legally, we certainly in Australia and also in Aotearoa, New Zealand and the UK, we have reasonable modifications that we have to make. So the first thing is, if you're declaring that as a diagnosis, please do so, and do that with your supervisor, the chair, and the assessors, and then it will be configured in a different way. And Doug, let me give you an example of how that configuration can occur. I have a student, I won't mention the wonderful student, but they have anxiety and is neurospicy. Let's just leave it at that. And that's declared. And so the intensity of having to deliver at a time and a place was very challenging for him. So what we did with this particular gentleman is he pre-recorded the speech itself. So he did the speech on his own terms in his own room for 15, 20 minutes, and that was pre-recorded. And then that was presented in lieu of the presentation synchronously, and then they answered synchronous questions. So that was a way that anxiety to deliver, you have to deliver now, bang, that was gone, and then answered real questions in real time. So quality assurance was in place. So that's just one example. Doug, how are we going, mate? And then we'll go to Jamie as well. But what do you think, Doug?
Yeah, I'm not sure if I would be comfortable recording. Like, I would like to do it live because that seems like the most logical process to take. And recording would seem a bit artificial. Like, you don't get the feedback, the bounce back of
Fair enough.
is that the word, bounce back?
Yeah,
The two-way process of seeing the examiners or the assessors
Yes.
and see what their response is or is not,
Yes.
and where you're sort of going and where you can sort of improve or cut back on and things like that. So I guess I'd like to do it live, but it is perplexing.
Oh, well, Doug, what it is, it's about acknowledging the issue. And there are thousands of strategies using mixed mode, multimodal strategies to make that happen. And first of it is, as with that wonderful lass that was recovering from breast cancer, it's firstly acknowledging the issue, making sure there's very experienced assessors. They know what's going on. They're cool, they're rocking and rolling, and strategies are put in place. Jamie, obviously you've worked with a lot of neurospicy crew as well. Any commentary on the COC and those events and caring for students?
Yeah, I've actually got a lot to say.
Oh.
So as someone who is neurospicy themselves, I'm a creature of fear and anxiety, just like you. And in learning to cope, it's okay. In learning to cope with it, you need to get more information. So anxiety is about fear of the future, right? So if you render the COC as a judgment exercise that you're justifying your existence, and at the end of what your performance looks like, someone's going to go, no, you're not good enough, get the hell out of here, right? You render it that way, you're setting yourself up for failure.
Yeah.
So if you look at the COC as the panel are not trying to judge you in that way.
No.
All they want to do is understand what you know. So if you're just explaining to them what you know, you're doing yourself the most justice you can in light of the scenario, right? And as Paul has mentioned, and as Tara's mentioned, and as others have mentioned, they actually want to help you. They want you to be successful. They don't want you to be unsuccessful. So so they will just keep asking you questions to try and understand what you've done and what you know and what you're thinking, and to help you think more deeply about what you're actually doing. So it's kind of a facilitated conversation rather than a right.
Yeah.
Right. So if you set your mindset before you go into it the right way, you set yourself up for success, right? So that's the first thing I wanted to say. The second thing I wanted to say, which was in coping, like the way I cope with my neurospiciness is to be forearmed, right? I don't like unknowns. So I want to get as much information about a situation before I go into it, especially when it's a new one for me. I don't want to go into it completely blind, not knowing what I'm doing and feeling like I'm not knowing what I'm doing, because there's nothing worse than halfway through a presentation going, no one's actually listening to me. You know, you said you don't want the live situation. The downside of the live situation is people going, oh, man.
Yeah.
Well, the supervisor going, right? So there's always going to be an upside and a downside.
Brilliant. I think that's amazing. Was there a third?
Yeah, so I was going to say the 7P principle. Does everyone know the 7P principle?
No.
The 5P principle is something like proper prior preparation prevents poor performance or something.
Okay.
The 7P principle is proper prior preparation prevents piss poor performance.
Nice.
So
love a bit
Very Australian.
Nothing wrong with practice, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Doug, mate, before we go to gorgeous Mary, Doug, mate, what I do with my students, and firstly, you know, on my channel, and so on the Tara Brabazon YouTube channel, who knew that's a thing, I actually put up some of my previous students doing their milestones to reduce that anxiety for people, so you can actually see in real time.
Yeah, I watched Maeve's, was that this year?
Yes, Maeve and beautiful Amanda, yes.
Yeah, so I'll probably go back and watch them and track down some more if there's more on there.
and do a mock. So if you've got
Yes.
people like me, and trust me, I go hard. So when I'm doing a mock, I'm not nice, Tara.
Yeah.
I'm angry. I am angry. So every dreadful question you could possibly get, I will ask you because I'm terrible. So then you won't be frightened.
I have to tell you, that's really helpful. So when I went for the driving test in Southwest Sydney in the late 80s, the examiner that I had was much more pleasant than the instructor I had. It made it so much easier to do. But Maeve is a great one, because Maeve was actually incredibly anxious the whole way through. She was late to arrive at the COC. She was frightened of what was going to happen.
She made a mistake in the time zones.
Yeah, she had 2 watches, 2 clocks or something because of being close to Queensland and New South Wales or something.
Well, I've been through daylight saving twice this week. You know, through daylight saving last weekend. Sydney went through daylight saving this weekend. So I'm 2 hours ahead, and my drapes are already.
Your drapes are gone, mate. Your drapes are stuffed, mate.
Have a pumpkin's gone.
Yeah, mate. So that's quite useful, I think, Doug. So you will run a mock, and your supervisor, which I believe might be me, I'll make you feel terrible about yourself, your life, your mother, your grandmother. Your assessor will never do anything as hard as I will do as a mock examiner. Okay.
Okay.
And that
Promise?
I promise it'll be hard.
That's like our marriage. Tough love.
Tough love. Tough love. And speaking of beautiful love, let's go to Queen Mary. Mary, talk to us, darling.
Yes, I wanted to put in my 2 cents worth, because I have done a confirmation of candidature, and actually I must say it was one of the most affirming things I've ever done. And one of the things is we're really into our research. We've got our subject. We've done so much reading, blah, blah, blah. We have to remember, and Julie's just made this point, if you're doing a master's or a PhD, you actually know a lot more about the subject than anyone else. And you don't realise it because you're working so hard and you're really looking at it. So for me, my supervisors prepared me for many months before it. They were very, very critical of my research proposal. It finally got submitted. Then I had to present for the confirmation of candidature. I went through the presentation 2 or 3 times with them. They were really careful about it, because they really don't want, your supervisors don't want you to do the whole COC and then have people say no. So your supervisors will work really hard to make sure that you are match fit, basically. And then when I did it, particularly the questions afterwards, they were just really, I was just having this amazing conversation with all of the people who came about the research. What about this? What about that? Blah, blah, blah. And it gave me a couple more ideas. So the idea is not to cut you down. The idea is to look at what you're presenting and help you make it better. So if there are some gaps, someone will talk about that. That's not a deal breaker. It's confirmation of candidature. This is when you start looking at, this is what I want to present. And other people say, well, what about this? What about that? And then you incorporate it. And after that, at the university I go to, you then revise your research proposal and submit it back to the assessors. So your research is then really well set up. You've got a really good research journey ahead of you mapped out, because you're also doing the budget and you're also doing the timeline, and they're both very useful and very important as well.
You're a superstar, Mary. Doug, have we convinced you?
Yeah. I was I don't know. I think when I was going to do it in 2019, 20 at Flinders, I was so overwhelmed by trying to get my proposal done without having any knowledge in the field that I was quite overly stressed, and it was sort of backing up, like it was getting later and later than when it should have been done. So I think I jumped ship before I was pushed.
Oh, Doug. Well, can I also say, and Paul, this is a weird thing that exists in Australia compared to the UK, because most Australian academics have not worked around the world and not done oral exams at the end. So know what that looks like, know what the oral exam, and had the on-the-job training from a Viva system. What happens is in their head, they start to do the Viva stuff at the end, but they bring it forward to the first 6 to 8 months, right? So Australians think they're testing the whole damn project at 8 months in, right? So then students get completely freaked out, asking ridiculous questions. Well, this hasn't been included. Well, dude, I've been doing this for 8 months. You've been doing it for 22 years. Calm the farm, girlfriend, right? So if more Australian universities had the oral exam at the end, then the COC in the first year would have a different context, I think. So that's why probably poor Doug was sort of like, these people are asking too much of me, because Doug, you were not paranoid. They were out to get you.
Can I just quickly say, we're actually talking about confidence.
We are.
Right? We're not talking about competence. We're talking about confidence, or rather, we're talking about both. So in the COC, your assessors are trying to see how competent you are, but your confidence grows with your own estimate of your own competence. So that's what the practice and the preparation, or being match fit, as Mary quite
written it down.
That's what it's about. It's about you developing your own confidence. So the more reading you do, the more you sit in the space and consider all the possibilities, the more confident you are that you know what you're talking about. That's really the difference between being stressed out of your mind and being unable to perform, and hey, let's talk about my research project, because I've been thinking about it for ages and I'm keen to share
I'm up for it.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Yeah. So Doug, that's great. I don't know who put the hand up first, so I will go to our Jamaican colleague first, beautiful Megan. Gorgeous Queen Susan, talk to us.
Yes, I've never done a PhD or a confirmation of furniture, but I just want to say something I think might be helpful. It's said already by Jamie, because I've done 2 defenses. I did a degree in philosophy at the defense at the under, and I still remember I wasn't even afraid. But what happened afterwards, when they started asking me all these hard questions, the head of the department, I was at the end going, oh my goodness, did I pass? So I wasn't afraid. And then my supervisor told me afterwards that he argued that, it really wasn't that bad, whatever. But then maybe because of that experience, so years later, when I did a master's in public health and we had a defense, that was, anyway, I've done 3 masters. So that was the only one where I had a defense. The other one was a presentation. One was just a project to give it. So the one with a defense, it's so important what you feed your mind. Because of the few weeks before that, I remember I work in a university. I went to some other master's presentations and it was a disaster. So I listened to all these disasters, and then now I'm thinking, even though I knew I had competence and I was teaching research, I know having in my head, oh my goodness, what if? So that was in the back of my head. I got an ethics clearance late, so I hadn't done as much of the project as I wanted. So I was worried about that too. Guess what? Of everybody in the project, the feedback at the end was I was the best one. Remember, I had now spent weeks worrying, what about this? What about that? What about that? And then the only negative feedback, the reason I'm saying this, the only negative feedback I got, I did get negative, was about my methods could have been better. What did the person who I asked the supervisor tell me at the beginning? She was doing her PhD, she's very busy. And she said, Suzanne, I'm not a methods expert. So as it turned out, I hadn't gotten feedback. So you see what Tara says? If your supervisor is competent to give you feedback, and guess what? I will sit to Tara's blog, and I know that only person. Sometimes the supervisor is either not competent or not willing. You can go to other people as well. I'm talking about it in general here. So if it's Tara, I'm probably sure you're good. The point is, once you get both, you spend the time, so you know your subject. Once you get feedback, and don't forget, you can reach out to other people to get feedback as a possibility. Then that can develop your confidence if you practice. Remember, you can practice in front of other people. I tell all of my students who are doing this kind of project to practice and to get feedback, because that is how you grow confidence. And you'll be getting excellent advice, in my opinion. So I think if you just calm down and make sure you feed yourself positive things, like don't do stupid things like me with my last project where I was listening to all of these bad scenarios. Go to the good. Yes, something could happen. That's not what you expect, but you cover.
Wow, you see, I want to be Susan. I want to be you, Susan. But come to the situation with positivity. You are great. You are motivated. You're ready to go. That's brilliant. Look at others so you get a sense of what a confirmation of cancer looks like, but then use your mates, use your supervisor to give you hard preparation. So every question that you could be asked, you've been asked, mate, and then you absolutely calm the farm and go in and be your best self. And yes, it's hard. And you know what? That makes the triumph even more meaningful. And Susan's life, every day, Susan confirms that for me. Amazing human being. Amazing human being. Should we go to the ambassador of Norfolk Island at this juncture? Queen Megan, speak to us, oh Queen.
Subjects. I have two questions. One is about the COC, and then one is actually about the PhD assessment at the end when you hand your thesis in.
Yes.
So first one, COC, how is the panel chosen for the COC? Like, where do they get the expert knowledge from? And then the second one was, is there any input from the student to finding your assessors for your thesis?
Yeah, great question. So they're two separate questions. So the COC, the assessors are chosen depending on, I mean, firstly, they can be internal to the institution or external. I tend to use external just because I want the best assessors I can find to help the student early on. But again, I'm very comfortable. And can the students be involved in selecting those assessors? Absolutely. In that case, really the student needs to be comfortable, needs to digitally stalk them, know what they look like, know what their voice looks like. Doug, this is a way to reduce the anxiety. So know what they care about. So you can really digitally stalk them. So students can be involved in that. So that's great. And I tend to choose a safe pair of hands. So decent, ethical people who are also brilliant. So, I tend to use, and I've got a few people I've used, particularly on feminist topics, Julie. I tend to use Dr. Leanne McRae. I tend to use the legendary Dr. Gail, Associate Professor. She's Associate Professor now. Associate Professor Gail Crimmins, and the legendary Professor Jackie Hewitt. So I have a group of about 5 for feminist topics that are used. So because feminism is a wide church, and a particular feminism could enter the program and it ends very badly. So I have a group, but again, I will always use the best people I can find, but the student obviously can choose. Now for the assessment at the end, and we'll go straight back to, do you want to do an intervention?
No, I was just going to say the panel that you have for the milestones are probably not going to be the assessors.
Oh, that's right. The panel for the milestones has nothing to do with the examination at all. Yeah. They are separate. So I pick the best I can find for the assessors, so that every problem that can be found has been found before we go to examination. Now, examination, the student must know nothing about the examiners, so they cannot know. But at CDU, what I have put in place is you can list all the people you don't want to examine you. So the people that you had a scrag fight with at a conference, the person who vomited over your shoes at that particular seminar, the person that disagrees with your Althusserian Marxism, you need to list those 20, 30, 40, 50, several hundred people that you don't want to examine. Some of you will have several hundred, and I respect that, brothers and sisters. So list everyone you don't want. Then the supervisor doesn't select from that list, but selects the best people. And once that's been selected and agreed and approved, then the supervisor and the student and the examiners, those people never communicate until the process is concluded. So fully transparent, independent, and confidential. How am I going, Megan?
Fantastic answers. Thank you. That was very helpful.
Right. So, but as you see, that's why I really go for, I don't go for a random, oh, look, hi, Phil, what are you doing next Thursday? Can you do the COC? That makes it pointless. You need the absolute best people on the planet to be able to assess it, and that lifts the student up. So there are no surprises at the end, mate.
Thank you.
You're the best. Now, what were you going to say, gorgeous one? Sorry,
well, I kind of said it, but also, if your supervisor is socio-politically savvy, they'll choose examiners that may open doors for you afterwards too. So, one of the reasons you have the supervisors that you choose is because you want to be able to access their network of people. But your examiners also have networks of people. And you can, and it does happen enough, certainly in my areas, that an examiner will contact the candidate a few months after it's over.
Or days.
Yeah. And certainly when I finished my PhD, I approached I had an international examiner, and I had two national examiners, one international examiner. And I approached the international examiner and asked them if there were employment opportunities among their group or their network. And it ended up creating a trail of about 5 or 6 possibilities for me.
Wow. Yeah. Well, I really hope that my supervisor is geosociopolitically savvy. I've yet to sort of try that out, but I'm hoping.
Look, I've heard your supervisor is aware with all flavors and shades of Marxism, neo-Marxism, and etc. Megan, yes, but can I say that's crucial? And we're about to go to the 2 people I was about to go to anyway, because Megan, of course, if you pick the examiners who are international standing, when I do it, obviously we are in radically different disciplines. I pick examiners that are so famous that they can write a sentence that becomes the blurb on the front of the book that becomes the thesis, and their fame and that statement can sell the book of the thesis for the student.
Oh, I'm liking the sound of that, baby.
Yeah, that's what I go for. And can I say, that's also what's happened with my students. So speaking of fantastic examiners who will enable careers, should I go to Queen Eunice, who we miss and we love desperately? Eunice, all our hopes to you. How are you, Angel?
I'm good. I'm back in the land of the living, thankfully. Spent way too much time on the wrong side of the hospital bed this year, but I've had excellent care. I can't complain at all. But yeah, all's well. I was actually going to ask you that question because in Australia it's not common that you ever get to know who your examiners are, and the examiners you very carefully chose for me were just absolutely outstanding in their comments, and I wondered if it's appropriate to contact them afterwards to thank them for their wonderful feedback.
Yes. So I believe my response to that, Eunice, would be, and this is a theoretical phrase, I think it would be hell yeah. So I would very much contact them now, particularly since you're well, and I was glad to see, because obviously now we're moving your book forward, girlfriend, #no pressure. But so I chose those examiners. I will say anal, not in that way, but in sort of like very, very focused through my whole body in a corporeal fashion, that I chose those actually not only because they were great people that would be great for your book, but also their names are particularly famous in specific markets where I think your work would go down very well, like Canada. So I picked an outstanding Canadian examiner so that that would be an entree to the Canadian book market for you.
Wow.
So yeah, contact them, and we're working on your book now. Sorry,
quick comment. No, that's right. Quick comment. The examiners are asked if they want to not have their name disclosed to the candidate. So if you know who your examiner is, it's because the examiner has said it's okay for you to know.
I see.
Yes, and
great.
I tend to pick people, Eunice, that are not sort of a pain in the butt, so they don't go, I want to be invisible. I want to be a reviewer too. I want to say terrible things, and then I want to go have a Chardonnay, right? So no, they're decent, ethical people, and so it'd be very rare for anybody that I ever select go, oh yeah, no, I'm a random. I'd be furious if that happened, because I pick them to help you after the examination.
Wow. I had no idea. I was just blown away when I saw all their details. That's incredible. They're confident enough. They're quite comfortable with their own shoes, and also, this thing in Australia, I suppose, because it's such a small pool, but you're seen more as a threat, which is so ridiculous,
Well said,
Eunice. Job.
Well said.
It's really important now, Eunice, though, that we talk about the PhD and think about it as an international endeavour. It's not. Don't think about the pool, or we're small players because we're from Australia
and we can't manage clocks,
or Norfolk Island, which is even smaller, right?
Not up here though.
No,
not up here.
No, so the PhD is the one international qualification where We are part of a global network of scholars, right? That should be part of the training, that should be part of the thinking. And the best example I can give you from my experience of that was when I went to the US to do my postdoc. My professor was the state of New Jersey professor of surface science. He was one of the gods of the field. I was thrilled to just be able to work with him, but he treated me exactly the same as he had about 5 postdocs, one of whom was a Harvard graduate, and he treated us exactly the same way. So your knowledge and your actions and your track record are the things that do the speaking, not where you came from or how big of a fish you were in a small pond or any of that, right? So if we think about it holistically as a global exercise, you're here, you're playing, you're in the game, and your qualification is as equally valid as anybody else's.
Yeah, because of examination. We are an international community, Eunice. The only reason I'm in this job, when all sorts of other weird jobs I could have, is this doctoral degree must be international. This is why Paul and I, we converse pretty well on a daily basis. All of us around the world need to converse because we need to get the standards right for this doctoral degree. So what's happening to Susan in Jamaica is happening to Megan in Norfolk Island, it's happening to Paul in the UK, happening to my mates in Japan. It's got to be of standard. That's what it is.
And as Gay put in the chat, you are a world expert in some small area of some research field that is your expertise. You are on the world stage and you are equally footed with everybody else.
As your examiner stated in their report, Eunice, in their last paragraph.
I do still find it really hard to come to terms with. I really do. Yeah.
You're amazing,
Yeah,
but let's now that you're well, let's get that book out for you now. And yes, contact them this week. That would be excellent. And let's go to your BFF, because our BFF has not spoken yet. And look, she's dressed for summer. So Queen Kate, talk to us, darling. Oh, hello. I thought we were doing a bit of work there. Oh, Kate, I thought it was all on for young and old there for a moment. Demute, gorgeous Kate. Demute you, babe. Kate, demute you, darling one, because I love hearing you. Got it.
Now, can you hear me now?
Certainly
Yeah.
can.
Yeah, it was really hot this morning in Sydney, but the wind is coming up, but that's okay. They're the questions I was going to ask as well, because the examiners gave their names on my thesis. Their comments were bloody outstanding, weren't they? They were just wonderful. I had not one amendment to do in the thesis, but I'd already read their work for years before they examined my work. But that's now that I know that I can contact them, I probably will, to see if we can get some worldwide research going on pressure ulcers, especially in aged care, because no one's doing it. Now, I've been battling that one for many, many years and haven't got anywhere really.
You've got everywhere. And there's just 2 things I'd like to say. So firstly, colleagues, I should have probably started with this, but it's just been bizarre. Of course, Kate was confirmed this week. Of course, we finished months and months and months ago, but for some reason, the sort of formal sign off at her university took bizarre time. It's unbelievable. We are so proud of you, Kate. So congratulations. You are a superstar. And secondly, your supervisor who has digitally stalked you saw that your research was very, very big in Spain and Portugal and in Spanish and Portuguese. And when I was going through your citations, I saw a lot of Spanish and Portuguese references. So when I came to try and think about an examiner for you, I found a fantastic expert, a professor in Spain and a professor in Portugal. And they were both amazing scholars, loved your work, engaged with your work magnificently. And I did that again, just like with Eunice with Canada. With you, that was a way to just really wedge in your research into Spain, into Portugal, and of course the Spanish-speaking and the Portuguese-speaking nations, noting the colonies. So, yeah, that's why I did it. And it's a brilliant thesis, Del.
Thank you. And just to mention briefly, I know we're coming to the end of the session, but why initially it took me so long to get my thesis examined. And this is advice for everybody actually, because my thesis is a PhD by prior publication. Now, my first publication was in 1996, I think, and I've had 25 or so peer-reviewed publications, but I used 11 of them for the thesis. But what happened, I lost touch with many of my co-authors, and I spent months trying to find them. Now, some had died.
Some had died.
And I thought with social media, it would be really easy to find people again. No, it's not. Some of them are not listed, even university professors who I'd worked with. No one can find them. So we had to, with Tara's help, I had to write reasons why and show how many times I'd emailed people, how many times, what I'd written, et cetera, to say, we just cannot find these co-authors to sign off. And ill health, another very dear co-author friend of mine, has been very sick. And he said he wanted to sign off. He hasn't. I don't even know how he is now. But that's just advice for everyone. Keep in touch with everyone who writes with you, just in case, because it did take us months of extra hanging around and messing around, didn't it?
And look, Kate, that's great advice. A lot of colleagues watch this asynchronously and are thinking about a PhD by prior publication. We will be implementing that from January 2024 next year at CDU, much to my pride and happiness, because it's a very special qualification.
Right.
Advice, and I'll be using your advice, Kate, but Kate's advice there is crucial, because the PPP can be over 10, 15, 20 years, even longer sometimes, for colleagues that are developing specialist areas, particularly in medicine and nursing, that take decades to develop. I think we had a wonderful colleague, wonderful Randall, hi to Randall if he's watching this, that did head and neck cancer, and that is a smaller field that's been developing over decades. So his 20 publications were over about 30 years, I think. But keep in touch and keep the paperwork going, because people die, people get sick. People also will increasingly, Kate, do dummy spits in international higher education too, where they go, I was a scholar and now, mate, I'm going to just do plumbing. I've had it. I know, Paul, I know you and I on Twitter most mornings, evenings go, should I be a plumber? Has the time come to move to plumbing? Yeah,
I'm just growing vegetables on my balcony, as well as writing. Eunice and I both have heaps and heaps of law reports for the courts across the country because of so many mistakes being made by nurses, unfortunately.
Unbelievable. But you two are running about 15 different businesses. You're unbelievable. But yeah, Kate, that's great advice for colleagues. I think it's good advice generally. If you're co-writing with people, it is a relationship, and nurture it. Don't sort of, I think we live in these dreadful neoliberal times where people go in and take what they want. What's in this for me now, and then, bugger off. And like, life shouldn't be like that. One writes with another human and keeps those relationships going for decades. That's lovely, and that's what academic life was meant to be, mate. We're great. I think we've lost Kate for a second. You're amazing, Kate. Love you, Kate. Love you, Kate. I see magnificent Ian in. How handsome are you looking, Ian? The glamour that you add to this call, I cannot begin to tell you. Ian, brother, how are you going, mate?
I'm fine, thank you. Oh, that's very kind of you to say that.
Very true.
I'm fine, thanks. Yeah, nice to be back after a couple of weeks away, because we just had a big move to Brisbane, and so yeah, that just sort of sucked all my attention away for a couple of weeks, and was very tiring. And so it's nice to be back and get into a bit more of a sort of routine again, and very interesting to listen to today's discussions from my point of view, because I did my PhD in Sweden, which is a very, very different system than Australia and New Zealand. Even though I'm from New Zealand, I did my bachelor's and master's there, but my PhD was at Stockholm University. And we didn't need to do a confirmation of candidature. I didn't have to do one because they employ you from the beginning as a PhD student in Scandinavian universities. So basically, you do an interview at the beginning and you get the job as a PhD student. So then you just start. But I did have to do a Viva. sort of defence at the end of it, and so yeah, just I mean, I've just been learning, you know, about the system in Australia, how the system in Australia works today, and yeah, I mean, I had input into my some of the committee members for my final defence, as it's called in Sweden. So I was luckily I was able to suggest. I was asked to suggest a possible candidate for the main discussant. So I suggested somebody who I already knew, and who I knew her research interests and you know, outlook aligned with mine, and who works on a similar topic, and she was approved. So because I had her, there were 6 people on the committee, and I didn't have input into choosing all of them, but luckily, because I was able to suggest her, and she was selected to be the main discussant, I had a very mostly positive experience with my defence, because she was very sympathetic to my research and interested and positive about it. So even though it was a hard, difficult 2-hour slog, that doesn't change. But yeah, it was that was a fortunate aspect of it.
Oh, Ian, that's brilliant. And the language we use now is the examiner, quote, is in affinity with the thesis, right? So that's brilliantly said. And of course, the Scandinavian universities, we all want to be working there. We call that, Ian, everything is front loaded. So Kate, it's very similar to the PPP, that all the process and the quality assurance is done right at the front, and really no one gets in that there's going to be any problems with. But I mean, Ian, we all want to graduate from the Finnish system. The only time I'd ever think of doing a second doctorate is doing it through Finland, because I do want that sword, right? And I've been involved in that oral examination as an examiner in the Finnish system, and it is tremendous. It's like a medieval party, you know, everyone comes, so it's a public event, and they're a top hat.
That's right.
And that's just the chicks. And
I had like 60 people at mine.
You get the gear, and then there's the sword, and you just go, what are we doing, mate? Why aren't we wearing a top hat?
The most surprising thing to me was that my thesis was actually published and printed out in 100 copies before the defence day. So, I mean, it doesn't sort of, I think it's a bit risky to do that. I was lucky, but my other colleague, who was also doing a PhD in Korean studies like me, someone in her committee discovered some serious issues in her thesis 4 days before her defence date, after it had already been published and printed out, and then they all had to be destroyed, and then everything got delayed for about a year, and she had to rewrite it and republish it again, which was really horrible. But I couldn't really.
Yeah, Ian, that's very rare in the Scandinavian system. What I find interesting about the Scandinavian system, and you know, Sweden, Finland, Denmark, is that there is this really tough internal examination. So we read the text, all of us, and so then we're asked, can this progress to an oral exam viva? And of course, then there are 2 of those, the private event and the public event. So that first gatekeeper function should stop that happening, but it's absolutely tragic.
It should have. That's right. It should have. You're exactly right. But for some reason it didn't, and issues were raised at the last minute. So
unbelievable. Oh, Ian, we're thrilled. And so, Ian, darling, you're in Brizzy, great city.
Yes.
Great city, Brizzy. We know a lot of mates in Brizzy, in Queensland. What's happening with the job situation? Are we moving forward? What's happening, Ian?
Sort of, I guess, slowly creeping forward.
Right.
And just in terms of, you know, keeping an eye out for opportunities and applying for things. I've submitted my an application, you know, as a casual academic to University of Queensland for their Korean Language Institute, which I won't be hiring until the new semester in January, February. But they've got my details, and I've you know, been in touch with them and introduced myself. And then just yesterday, I noticed that there's a job, a Korean Studies lecturer job, 0.5 FTE, being advertised at the University of Melbourne, because they're expanding their Korean studies department. So it's 11 months fixed term, 0.5 FTE, but I'm just going to apply for it. And I was quite happy that I found it because it sort of gives me a project to work on for a couple of weeks.
Absolutely, Ian. Ian, if any time you want to send me your CV too, mate, we do have a hell of a lot of mates through the Brizzy universities. So you know exactly what I'm thinking about. So and they're pretty senior, Ian. So
that would be fantastic. I'll do that.
Just
Thank you.
Now that you're settled, that's why I was hoping to see you. So at least if you're settled, we can, as a family, really care for you, Ian, because it's these are terrible times. These are terrible times. And people are applying for 10, 15, 20, 100 jobs. And it's catastrophic. And Ian, you're a brilliant man. So let's just all as a family, let's get you happy and sorted in a place where you are really cool with, right?
Fantastic. Yeah, it's really nice to be settled, and the city's lovely.
Oh, you're amazing. We are thrilled. Now I'm reaching the end of our party. I've got a series of questions, none of which we got to, so we will have to do them next week. Is there any sort of final vibe anybody would like to say, speak in our final 2 minutes? Any question or anything, any homework for me? Anything at all, please speaketh. Oh, there's nothing. So Queen Eunice, let's yes, because I mean we need to be working on your book now. So can I just write down as a family, darling, that your book will start to check in, and you got, I think, my book proposals some weeks ago. Start to fill those in, and we'll talk about that each week. Are you comfortable, Eunice?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. I'm just blown away that there's life after the PhD. I had no idea. And it's all thanks to you two. You know, both Kate and I keep saying that, and I know you keep backing away from it, but honestly, we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you two. No way on this earth.
Eunice, darling, that's not about us. If you've been, and you have been, if you've been hurt and hampered by our higher education system, that's not about you. That's about the failures of the system. And we need you, and we need Kate, and we need you all to make sure that doesn't happen to another human. So,
but you two have been so kind. I've never experienced that with any other supervisor.
No.
Or maybe one 20 years ago. But no, many of them are rat bags, they're bad-tempered, they're bitchy. You've never been like that.
Pretty aggressive, though.
You get 10 out of 10 on the Kookaburra stamp.
But it's cool. But it's
important. I didn't experience the same as Kate. I experienced more people wanting to change what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And to find someone like yourselves who have nothing to do with the subject matter and have put so much effort in, has just been unbelievable. And it continues. You don't just, okay, that's it, you're gone, finished, you've got it, tick a box, it's finished. You carry on. You carry on. My battery's running low, so I might lose everybody. But anyway,
all of our batteries are running low in this.
This is neoliberalism.
But I just wanted to say, Eunice, thank you for the kind words that you and Kate keep throwing at us. But it isn't about us, right? The greatest gift a supervisor can give a student is self-belief. So we fundamentally believe in you. We always have. We always did, and we need you to believe in yourselves. And I know that there are people.
It's hard after all this time.
Yeah. But it shouldn't be that way,
And so our job is just to help us and help everybody heal. We've all been damaged by this system, and perhaps what a lot of us share in this weekly session is the damage. And we speak of the damage, but we also speak of the resolution, and the community heals, and the community makes us stronger. So thank you all very much for this wonderful day.
Gay's question.
Please answer Gay's question. I didn't know there was a Gay question. Go for it.
Gay's asked a really important question. How do you believe in yourself when you've been pushed down and denigrated for over a long period of time? The challenge, and so first of all, Gay, I'm really sorry that you feel that way. And I understand how you can feel that way. One of the things that we're never taught when we're young is that when people impose judgment on us, it's very rarely, if ever, about us.
Oh, yeah.
It's always about them.
Is it?
And so all of the bad behaviors that you've just described about supervision, is about the individual supervisor trying to cope with their own false insecurities about their own identity
and
they're displacing it on the students.
That's exactly right.
The reason I guess that I mean, I think we're not too bad at what we do is because our identity is not coupled to this in any way, right? If I lose my job tomorrow and I lose my titles tomorrow,
zero bothers.
It's not going to change who I am, and it's not going to change what I do and why I do it. So I don't have that need for you to think of me through my title or think of me through my construction of what I need you to think of me, right?
Yeah, exactly right.
And that makes it so much easier to relax, right? Because this is not about me. It's about you.
It's about you.
I don't know how to help Gay apart from...
Every week we care for Gay. That's it.
Right.
Every week we care for Gay, and every week we show up. And that's probably what the duty of care is. And that's what we will continue to do. And Gay, what I'll do is I'm going to write that down. We might make that a bit of a focus next week about supervision students, but also the duty of care and self-efficacy. I might make that the focus. Okay. Colleagues.
I'm gonna butt in for Gay. I have a suggestion.
Yes, Bree, darling, we've only got a couple of seconds, but
all right, I've got a thought. Okay, it doesn't, and this is what I teach my kids, is that it doesn't matter what others think, it only matters what you think.
Yeah. Oh, darling, that's absolutely true. But it is difficult, as Gay has said, when you're buffeted by abuse and ridicule and bullying.
I hear that. I hear that.
Yeah. And so that's what we're going to focus on next week. And I'll quickly go to Julie. Nadi, we're about to go to Right.
Very quick, Gay. You know what is so fantastic about a group like this is that you're not on your own, that the feelings and the responses that you've had, you find it's not just about you, as Jamie said, it's really, it gives you hope.
Yes. It gives you hope. And Gaby will continue to show up. And let's make that the focus of next week, colleagues. Let's focus on that self-efficacy. You are all amazing humans. Eunice, we love you, darling one. Adrian, we're thrilled to see you. Ian, rock and roll, brother. See you at Right Club for some of you. Have a lovely week. See you soon. Bye-bye from Sitters. See you, team.